And we're live. Hey, everyone. It's Lev from Trotec Canada with an all-star panel here. Welcome, everyone from around Canada and around the world. We're actually doing this on Thursday this week because we have a holiday in Canada tomorrow. So we decided to just bring it back a day. So thank you, everyone, for joining. We have a very, very special guest, Mr. John Canton, one of our...
Okay.
one of our very, I guess, old customers from around the block out of St. Catharines, Ontario. I just want to give a quick intro. So we got Stephen Colley here, Mike, James, and Mel from our, I guess, our regular panel. And then again, John Canton. So John owns CNC ROI. If you guys want to check out his website and reach out to him. And John, if you want to give us maybe a brief intro, tell us who you are, what you do, how long you've been in the business.
Well, I started the business about 10, 15 years ago, actually, when I ran a 3D animation studio. And then with the dot-com bomb, I left Canada and I went to South Korea and I lived everywhere else around the world for a couple of years. During that time, I wanted to get into woodworking, so I started woodmarvels.com, which is maybe how some people know me. Then that evolved to CNC King. And then about 6 years ago, I moved back to Canada and I started CNCRI.com.
I just figured out what the ROI means. It's WOI. It's French for king.
There we go. You got it.
Wow. You thought it was return on investment.
I didn't realize.
That's what you guys thought, but it's WOI. It's French for king.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I'm the king in 2 languages.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. And okay, awesome. So I guess we have a bunch of questions. We're not going to get through them all in time, but I will post the link here. If you have priority questions, we probably won't get to it in this episode, but next week or the week after, we can get through them. So go to that link, bit.ly/asktrotec, and then fill out the information, and then we'll post your question up. So awesome. We got people here. If you guys want to give us a quick shout out on the chat, let us know where you're from. We'll say hi to you guys as well. And we have our boss watching. Hey, Deborah.
No pressure.
I gotta fix my hair.
I should be at the office. Good thing I put my new background here.
Awesome. Okay, so let's start with our first question. And this one is from Bartholomew out of Warsaw in Poland. I will be very happy if you'll show us many applications using Flex technology. I guess the best person to ask, obviously, is our special guest, John, because you're one of the first, I believe, in Canada or Ontario to actually own a Flex laser,
it's the
right?
first in Canada. And so,
Okay.
So I was the first in Canada from what I know. And it's been an awesome machine. The nice thing about Flex, it's very rare that I have an application where I need both of them at the same time. But I have a lot of applications where I need, the fiber laser, and I have a lot of applications where I need the CO2. And it's wonderful to be able to switch from one to the other, like almost real time. That's a huge advantage. If you think about the other way of doing it using CO2 in a ceramic bonding paste, you're slowing down production dramatically. I just wish they had like a tri-laser where they had the MOPA as well, because that would be great.
So what kind of, what kind of applications do you usually do when it comes to Flex specifically? Like what kind of jobs did you do Flex usually?
It's all over the map. In the last 2 months, I've just been pushing through tons of stainless steel. So that's all been straight fiber work. But other times I do woodworking, and then I need, wood. I need the CO2 for that. I do acrylic. Again, I need the CO2. I'm a custom job shop, so I do whatever the customers have, and it's completely random. So every day is completely different from the other day. But yeah, this video here that you're showing is a fantastic example of what you can do with having both in one machine.
So I mean, when you originally, I guess, got the Flex, the 400, I mean, that's kind of how you advertised as well, right? As you're the
Absolutely,
one guy.
Yeah, because almost all of my competition at the time were using, again, ceramic bonding paste, and the problem with that is that it comes off, or it fades, or it cracks, or whatever. Just get a fiber, like do it the right way to begin with, and you save yourself so much time.
One application I
Jimmy,
saw is. Oh, hello.
Sorry, Jimmy. Just before you go on, Ceramic bonding paste is Thermark, or just so people understand, John's using ceramic bonding. That's what it's glass frit, right? But it's just so people understand it's Thermark. So
John also likes to say tissue paper instead of Kleenex.
I can't hear you. What? Talk louder.
I said John also likes to say tissue paper instead of Kleenex.
So, James, sorry, you wanted to add something about the flex?
A lot of people are like, well, I don't need a flex because I don't do any metal, but there's great applications for a fiber laser, even without using metal. There's one example is a guy who does architectural signs, door signs, things like that, and he needed sort of a step up and to come up with a really cool product that people could get behind and say, I want that, and none of his competition would have it. And so what he does is he uses a reverse engraved plastic, reverse engraved brushed silver plastic on a lot of his signs, and he actually shoots the fiber laser through the clear part, and it hits the bottom, the foil part of the reverse engraved silver, and actually creates kind of a silvery white texture underneath. And he can do people's names in that, and all sorts of different graphics with it. And he creates a really cool texture and a good look that none of his competitors can do. So when somebody's trying to shop out his work to somebody else, none of them can do it. And he finds that it's sort of a safety on his part.
It's also great for polycarbonate because you get a jet black mark using a fiber laser on that. And I've done a ton of jobs. One of my biggest customers, I just do polycarbonate marking. I don't think you can use Cermark or whatever you want to call it on it. I think that's the only way to do it. I don't know of any other way.
Is that right, Mike?
Yep.
Yeah, so live for industrial applications too, right?
Yeah.
One of the prerequisites, as far as I know, is they require a surface engraving. They need some sort of depth. So you can only achieve that with a fiber laser.
Yep.
Yeah, and the polycarbonate is used a lot in the food industry. So using the fiber laser is good for marking. I got one guy that's stir sticks and a couple of other customers doing a lot of polycarbonate
I'll take
marking.
an example here. So this is a 1/4 inch polycarbonate, 6 millimeters, and here's the fiber. I got it upside down. There we go.
Oh,
So
cool.
this is fiber.
Yeah, that looks great.
So this was CNC router cut, obviously. Because if I cut it with the laser, it's a big block mark. There we go. So you can see it's incredibly clear. It's almost like, and it doesn't come off. It has a texture of just nothing. Like you can just wash it. Everything's great with it.
Is polycarbonate the only plastic that you could do with fiber and not with CO2?
There's another one that's I don't have an example here. It's probably somewhere else. But there's a black acrylic that you can use the fiber laser with, and you end up with a white mark.
Yeah, white mark. Yeah, our Jimi Hendrix one in the well, and with sample we send out, the acrylic samples. One of them is marked with it's black acrylic and it's marked, or green acrylic, and it goes.
Well, yeah. Another thing you do is also those electrical things, those electrical covers. Sometimes it's black, sometimes it's green as well. And again, that's fiber work because you're not melting the plastic. Mel knows how to explain how that works. You're just changing the color of the surface of the plastic.
If you dope a plastic with titanium oxide as well, the plastic will go white. So if you have like a blue plastic, and during the makeup or the building of the plastic, if you dope it, or if you put an additive of titanium dioxide, a fiber laser will turn your parts nice and white. So
what kind of piece is that? I've never heard of that before.
Yeah, we did this with some silicone. So we had some light blue silicone, and it was just marking. It would mark with a CO2, but they wanted to mark it with a fiber, so it wasn't such a deep depth. And so we had them add titanium dioxide to the mixture of the silicone, and then once it was engraved, it just turns completely white.
Yeah, Stephen did some of that in South Africa, right, Stephen?
Yeah,
They're doing what, parts or?
parts, components,
Yeah.
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 And
Or they're
bracelets.
adding additives.
Armbands, silicon armbands.
Cool. Okay. So we'll go to our next question from, I think I'm mispronouncing this, Annalise and Stephen. Stephen's actually from South Africa, so maybe you can let me know, how do you say this? Hoedsproet, South Africa?
Hoedsproet.
Hoedsproet.
Right, yeah.
Okay, sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. So she's asking, I'm very interested to see how Corel Draw or the graphic design program works with the laser and how data is set up to send to the laser. So we can do a brief demo. James, did you want to?
Sure. Yeah.
Sure.
Now, a lot of people who maybe are familiar with Chinese machines, machines like that, they're used to of setting up a graphic on a program, and I'll switch over to my Corel Draw file here. And they're used to setting up a graphic, saving it as a PDF or a DXF or whatever the design software, whatever the laser software wants, and then sending the file over there to use in their program. With Trotec, we use a printer driver, which I mean it's called job control. So basically, I'm in Corel Draw here.
Share your screen, James. Before I share James's screen, I just want to mention, if you guys again go to on YouTube, type in Trotec Corel Draw, and we have a webinar basics that we've done. It's over an hour long, just the very basics, making shapes, texts, printing the files onto job control. Check this out. And Mike did a kind of a webinar for default settings for Corel Draw. So just keep that in mind. James, sorry, you wanted to share your screen?
I'll share my screen here. Sharing screens. Is it shared now?
I don't see it.
Click on the screen and then say share. Click on your Corel screen. You'll see it in a little box.
Share. There we go.
Oh, there we go.
Wow, that was almost too hard. Okay, so what's so funny? Who doesn't like Hello Kitty? It's a happy thing for the morning. Okay, so what we do with Trotec is we're going to build a graphic, as I've done here. I've had a little graphic that I can engrave. I've made a little red line that's a hairline thickness, or a 0.003 in Corel Draw. And then I print. I simply print to send to the laser. So I'm hitting the print button here, which brings me up to my print dialog. Eventually, this computer's, there we go, a little bit slow. And usually where we would set up an office printer to, with different qualities and paper sizes, we're gonna go in there. So this is my printer options right here. And different graphic softwares will have it in different places. In a lot of cases, we're going to set our width and our height to the same as our width and our height in our drawing program. I'm not going to get into all the details of the job control driver here. We're going to pick the material that we want to use. So job control comes standard with a whole bunch of different types of materials. Different types of plastics and woods and stone and rubber and wood and all the plastic laminates that we have in our catalog. Come see our catalog. I'll grab a laminate here, Trolace 1.6 millimeter quality, and I simply say okay and print. And I print to job control. So job control is a separate program. Those of you with the other brands of lasers will have a little tiny screen on their laser that says, oh, this is job 1, this is job 2, this is job 3. Well, job control here is like that little screen on steroids. This here, over here, shows me all the jobs, and of course there's only one today. All the jobs that I've done in the past, will show up here. It's my job queue. This here is a representation of my laser bed. So this here would have been a Speedy 300, set up for a Speedy 300, 29 by 17. And right over here is how long that job is going to take. So we grab that job, we can drag it out onto our screen. I can even click my WYSIWYG here to show me what is going to be printed. And you'll notice that the laser through job control has printed my job right here, and it's kept the red line red because I've used the proper settings to make that a cut line. And you can see over here, it's going to take me 3 minutes to engrave and 16 seconds to cut. You'll notice also that I'm not connected to a laser, and it still gives me this timing. This is good because now we can use this program on a computer not even connected to the laser to give us our job time estimation. And we can do that with one, or we can do that with many, and it will estimate our job as being 6 minutes 24 seconds to engrave and 1 minute 30 seconds to cut out of plastic laminates. So
How
there's
did you duplicate the part so fast?
Control D.
Yeah, I just
Oh, I
clicked
had
on.
no idea. Okay.
I clicked on
Takes
one
years to figure that out. Okay.
Yeah, I mean you learn. I learn something new every single day. Every day, I've been using CorelDRAW for 24 years now, and I still am learning things. I'm sure, Mike, you've probably experienced that as well. Mike actually invented CorelDRAW way back.
Yeah,
in
one with the chisel.
1944. He invented CorelDRAW.
Guys, are we gonna make fun of him every time for for his experience?
That's while he was engraving the 10 Commandments, right?
Exactly.
There we go. So I hope that that solves.
Sorry, Mike, you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, just one thing, because this comes up a lot. Just so people understand, Jimmy's showing the fact that you're going to go file print. The job goes into job control, and then you can drag it out. You can also, from when you're printing the job, you can just go file print and basically send it directly to the laser machine. So the laser machine will start up engraving. So you don't have to go into job control. A lot of people want to be able to do this so that the machine just starts engraving. So you don't actually have to go to job control. So that is an option for people to do too.
Yeah,
so,
but that would automatically default to the upper left corner, though, right?
To the top, exactly.
Yep.
You can auto position it if you want, but yeah, most of the time it's, if you're doing a 12 by 24 and you've already got the material in the bed, you can basically just have it go directly to the laser without having to go into job control and bring it out onto the workspace. So.
Yeah, but I love the job control. It gives you, it's more like a verification thing that you're engraving you don't want to be wasting material, finding out like, oops, it was engraving something else, right?
Yeah, Bill Elliott says final production time isn't always accurate. I mean, John, what's your experience with that estimator?
I actually find it really accurate, except when you have really big jobs. So if I'm doing fiber etching, it's a 3-hour fiber etching job, I'll notice that it might be off a little bit, depending on what colors, because you use multiple colors to speed things up when you do fiber laser. For example, so let's say I have, this hand is black, and I'm going to etch this, and this hand, can use the camera. And this head, this would be red. So then the laser will go this way, and then it'll go this way. It'll be faster than going between the two spaces. So I would find the more complicated your setup is, it does sort of fall back a little bit, but it's not that bad. I've never had like a massive where it's triple the time or something like that.
Mm-hmm. So Laser Tattoo from Germany is asking, when will the new version of JC come, which is web-based? So we can't actually comment on any of this. I don't even know if we know, but even if we did, we can't really give any kind of dates, or it's all internal and it's all based from Austria. So unfortunately, we can't provide an answer to that. So our next question is from Kirkland Lake, Ontario. And surprise, surprise, another person asking about pricing. So I guess because we have John here, maybe, John, if you can comment on, obviously don't give us your secrets and stuff, but I mean, in a general sort of sense, how do you price jobs? How did you start pricing jobs, and how did it develop over time? Like, how did you perfect that skill?
Honestly, I don't price jobs. I ask the customer, what is your budget? What is your timeline? I just right through the chase. If they don't have a budget, that tells me they haven't thought enough about their project, and I'll wait until they get to it.
But does it? How often does the budget, like in their mind? Okay, I have like $1,000 budget, but
Well,
the
they
job
tell me
is.
you have $1,000 budget. Like it's really hard to price things when you're dealing with somebody who says, "Why do you price this fine?" And then you give them a budget and say, "Well, that's overpriced." Like it just doesn't work that way. I may be lucky where I spend my time saying no to jobs, just because I don't want to deal with, like, a lot of people would want to say, "Okay, I have a phone case. I want this laser engraved with something." Okay, what's your budget? Is it $20, $100, $1,000? What is it? And I go from there. I've found more often than not, they don't want to give me a number. It means they don't have any money. And that's just the reality of it.
Okay. And I mean, I guess for bigger companies, like for big projects, I mean, they obviously, generally they would have a budget in mind.
Oh, yeah. Every company that's serious about a job has a budget in mind. Whether they want to give it to you or not, it's up to you to sort of work that out. But it's been extremely rare where a company says, "Well, just give me a number and we'll pay it." Like, it just doesn't happen. But, big companies, everybody needs a budget for something. You just got to ask them about it. You can't sort of go around and try to find it out. What's your budget? When do you need it for? Okay, well, let's see if we can work with those numbers. If we can, well, here's an alternative. That kind of stuff.
Interesting. Okay. Anybody have anything to add to that, or should I go on to the next question?
Well, I think if we just we say the same things that we've said the last couple of weeks, is that a good starting point just for a laser time is $100 an hour, and
I'd say that's on the very low end, to be honest.
Well, yeah, but I mean it's a starting point for people to work at, right? And I know what you charge, and other people, just because of the market that they're in, maybe don't have that same flexibility. But there's no reason why. And the thing that we always have to tell people is that that's just for the laser time. That's not for the amount of work that it goes into you designing the software, the job, and everything like that. That needs to be included in there too, for production time. And again, $100 is a good starting point. If you want to do 150, you want to do 200. That's up to you. However you're doing it. So.
Great. Okay. So the next question we have is from Sergio out of Portugal. Santa, I can't pronounce that. I'm sorry. Santa Eulalia in Portugal. Best settings to cut white paper without burn marks. So I think we talked about that last week, Mike. Yeah. I know you got that that paper without burn marks. Do you remember like what kind of laser you used, or what settings you used for that?
Well, it doesn't really matter which one of the Trotec lasers you're using. I mean, you're always going to be able to cut paper and not get a burn on it. I think you did you do you did a video with Ketchuba, right?
With what, sorry?
Ketchuba, remember the guys in Toronto? You did that video. They were doing the
Ketchuba, yeah.
Right. He's cutting. You have the video of him cutting the white paper. So you need and again, I'll say exactly what I said last week, is that this is a Trotec machine I'm talking about. This may not necessarily be somebody else's machine, because there are limitations, especially in glass tube systems, where you can't slow the machine down enough and the power down to be able to get a good cut and the quality of the beam. But what I suggest to people, 1,000 hertz, so you get your highest peak power. You want to use air assist. Definitely a 1.5-inch lens is better than a 2-inch lens, but I tend to find that it doesn't really make a big difference. But if somebody's just strictly cutting paper, then I'll tell them to buy a 1.5-inch lens. And go with that, and make sure your material is flat, and make sure that your cutting table is not dirty on the backside, so you're not transferring any of the residue in the cutting table onto the back of the white paper. Yeah. So again, these people cut white paper all day. Now this is done on a new Speedy 400, but it could have been done on an old Speedy 400. Or a Speedy 300, or a Speedy 100, or a Speedy 500, whatever.
Yeah, you can see it's like very intricate cuts, and there's no burnt marks on the white paper.
Also gray paper. Don't forget that. That's really cool too.
Sorry, John. Say that again.
Gray paper.
Oh, engraved paper. Have you done any paper jobs, John?
Oh yeah, I've cut paper and I've engraved paper. And again, what Mike tells you for the settings work really well. I think you did a longer video with that, Mike, a while back for paper specifically.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is as you saw there too, he was taping the edge of the paper down too with some masking tape, right?
Yeah.
So the other thing is you can see him lifting it out. Again, the biggest issue here is make sure the product is flat. Make sure that when you cut, you just use the least amount of paper or least amount of power that you can use, and don't use what's in the job control as the gospel. Use it as a starting point, and then fine tune your settings, because paper is so much different. There's so many different grades of paper, so many manufacturers. You need to test to make sure that you get the appropriate settings to work. Just put just do a rectangle or do a circle or do a star.
Yeah, I was going to suggest that video Josephine did. I mean, if you type in on YouTube Trotec material settings, this we want to use only if for cases like this where it's the paper is obviously very, very delicate, and we would recommend to start with the manufacturer suggested settings in job control. But if you're not happy with them or you want something different, check out this video. Josephine basically goes through how to make these grids, these matrices, and the file for the matrices is actually in the description section here. So you can actually download the file for these matrices. And then here you can see she's engraving at different powers, so you can see what's the best speed and power for engraving and cutting. And you can use it for any material. So I
can tell you right now from my experience, and from my customers' experience, because I screw up a lot too. But the probably, and Stephen might be able to, because he is the tech support, so he can probably add on to this. But I can tell you right now that 70% of the issues that people have with the laser machine come from using improper power speed settings. Yeah. And typically they're overburning the material most of the time, because if you're underburning it, then you wouldn't see it. But most people tend to burn the material, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that they just look at what the manufacturer suggests, and then they go with that. And I always come back to people to say, that's not what you want to do. Take the extra 3 or 4 minutes, get the proper power and speed, and you'll save yourself a lot of hassles. If you watch my video on plastic engraving, 9 times out of 10 people are going to give me grief about engraving red on white plastic, lamecoid material. And in that video, I show you that how to do that, and most of that is just due to just getting proper power and speeds.
But your half-hour video about lamecoid is amazing. I wish you did something like that every week. So I learned so much from that. There's so much to learn about lamecoid specifically. It's so easy to screw up a job on that stuff if you just offer their settings or whatever happens. But Mike did a really long video about that stuff, and I've watched it many times.
Yeah, if you guys click on again YouTube Trotec Lays. This is the one video that we're talking about, and Mike's talking about. Oh, sorry.
Oh, you got a lot of hair all of a sudden. Okay.
Yeah, Mike.
Geez, I need some residual payments out of this.
I think so too.
The abuse fee.
Hey, I got hair too.
I know. Look at that.
You got more hair.
Yeah, Lev, this applies to almost all the materials too. Overburning, usually the cause of discoloration on any material is because of overburning. So the key really is finding the minimum amount of power you can use on a certain material. That's the key.
You'll notice on this video that I'm not even using a cutting table, right? I'm using the solid table on this material. So
and then you're just snapping it off, right?
Just snapping it off, yeah, so that I can take. Now I think in this part here I may not be, but I use just a solid table because I'm not going all the way through, right? So. Yeah,
the beauty about that onion skin too, Mike, you can pick it up in one piece and just snap, right? Exactly. You're not picking up individual pieces, especially if it goes to hundreds, right?
Yeah. And you're using magic eraser here, right?
Yeah, just make sure that you don't. I like to wet the magic eraser down. I know a lot of people aren't doing that, but I like to wet the magic eraser down a little bit, and just don't scrub too hard see, I'm on the solid table. Make sure that you don't push too hard so you're scratching the background.
Yeah, I've done that mistake too. So
yeah.
That's nice.
Perfect. Actually, we had a laser tattoo from Germany. I think this is for the original the question before about job pricing. So yeah, I guess in Europe it's €1 per minute for engraving and €1 per minute for designing the job. So that's some good feedback there.
Yeah, that's about 100 Canadian dollars, and
It's about $1. Yeah, it's about $100. Yeah, $1.50 or whatever.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so let me go to our next question. I don't have anything from the board. Okay. So next one. Sorry, guys. Next one is from Doha from Saudi Arabia. Can we use the air only with a 3 to 6 craft wood and MDF wood? Or should we use nitrogen all the time? Also, when does Trotec Academy will start? So just a quick thing about Trotec Academy. There's different Trotec Academies in every country. We have our Canadian Trotec Academy for Canadian customers that we offer basically free training for new laser machines, 2-hour free training. Again, now there's a coronavirus, so obviously that's a bit lagging behind where we're still working with the skeleton staff here. But and we also provide paid training on normal days without coronavirus. So that's the academy. And if you're interested, you can go to the main Trotec. If you're not in Canada and you want to get some training, go to the main Trotec website, troteclaser.com, and you can find out about the academy. So I'll give this out to the team here. What do you guys?
Give it to Stephen. Let Stephen answer that one.
What do you think, Stephen?
That's an expensive option, especially
It's very expensive.
Yes, nitrogen is going to give you a very clean edge because it's stopping the black factor on the edges. But I would really, and this actually touches on what you were saying, Mike, about paper, and that is get your settings right first. Get those settings right with that wood to get a good edge. And if then the edge is not suitable for your customer and you need to have even better, then start adding other gases. But it's very rare that we have a customer using nitrogen on MDF. It's expensive, and you could very easily get a good edge on MDF without using that. Now, how? Well, it just depends on the MDF that you're using. So,
well, it's better than using acetylene, so I guess it's a good option.
John, what do you use for the wood that you cut? What kind of woods do you usually cut with your?
I've done a ton of, like mahogany, basswood, maple. I can just never answer bloodwood, whatever. If you gotta think about it. Most of the air that we breathe isn't actually oxygen. It's actually nitrogen. 80% of the air that we breathe is nitrogen. So just natural air has nitrogen in it. So it's not like we're going from 100% oxygen to 100% nitrogen. For wood, I've just used normal compressed air. I have an 80-gallon air compressor. So it's not kicking in all the time. When I first started, I had a 10-gallon one. So I basically had that thing running 24/7 when I was doing jobs. But
I assume you have the gas kit.
Sorry,
yes. That's what I was going to say, was the fact that, if you have a Speedy 400 or 360, then and you're using the air pump that's built into the machine, and you want to try to get a little bit cleaner edge, the gas kit might be the option that you may want to put on that machine.
No, it's the best investment I made, that gasket. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Because I can make my own air.
Yeah.
So.
What do you think of that, Stephen? Is that something? Stephen, do you think that would work?
This is critical in an MDF application, but obviously gas. If your machine can take a gasket, great. Definitely would be a gasket for MDF. If you've got a machine and you're doing primarily MDF, gaskets would be a recommendation for that. As John was saying, you can introduce natural air, and natural air has already got most of the ingredients you need for this. So,
can you guys elaborate for those who don't know, like, what a gasket is?
James.
No,
so it's an option.
Jim. I was going to recommend the pre-masking, actually, Leb. If you want to show them the material that we sell, the pre-masking tape.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that prevents it for, gives you...
That's for the top. That's not for the side, though, right? That's not...
Yeah, that's for the top, right. Mm-hmm. Are they talking about the side?
Yeah, I think for cutting.
I think it's more the edge quality than it is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, also, if you're doing a lot of acrylic, you definitely want to get a gasket as well.
Yeah, and what the gas kit is the gas. Normally, you've got a gas pump, which is the type of manufacturer, air being generated by a pump that's built into the machine. A gas kit allows us to use an external air pump. Like John said, he's got an 80-gallon tank, and you want something with a good reservoir because you don't want that pump running all the time. And again, you want to make sure that if you're using external air, because then you can force a little bit more air pressure. Don't overdo it because you could blow the lines. And again, you want to have dry air if you can get dry air, because you don't want water going through the lines because it'll get on the lens. So again, those are some things to consider, but the gas kit will, and I've had some people do this. They've actually bought the gas kit after the fact, and use the pump and not use the pump that comes with the machine. And it's cleaned up, their edge quality, for what they're doing. So,
in wood though, right? And,
yes. And, well, I had one guy using acrylic too. He did found the flaming a little bit less, but
don't you find that the edge quality on acrylic gets kind of frosty when you put some high compressed air in?
Yeah, he wasn't really too concerned about the edge quality for what he was doing. So,
Mel,
the difference between cast acrylic and extruded acrylic too. So there's a couple different options in there.
Sorry, Mel, you mentioned the masking. So are you talking more for for engraving the wood? You would use the masking tape?
Not more for engraving, more for cutting actually.
For cutting, right.
And engraving as well. And this pre-mask actually works on a lot of different substrate, right? Glass, it's perfect for glass. And wood too, yeah. But Mike is absolutely right. It just prevents the overburning on the top, not on the sides. But most applications, anyways, they do just care about the visible portion of it, right?
Yeah. So actually, Laser Tattoo is asking, engraving glass with or without wet paper. What would you guys say?
Well, your video right now is showing people me putting the mask on the glass.
Right.
Right. And again, I would, if I was just doing a cheap wine glass, and the people really weren't worrying about it, I'd probably just use wet newspaper because you can get it on there pretty quick, and it's a small area. The reason, if you're using a larger area like this, or you want something that's consistent, then the transfer paper is the best. I always ask people, I say, what is wet? Is wet, like how wet is wet? Like you ask somebody and they're like, they don't know because you're just pouring water on paper. So it makes your settings a little bit inconsistent because, am I putting a lot of water on there? Or am I putting a little bit of water on there? So the nice thing about the transfer paper is every time you put it on there, it's always the same consistency. So when I'm doing something like this, then I'm going to use the transfer paper. And the problem with wet newspaper is the exhaust is going to dry the paper out if it's a larger area and it comes off. So a lot of times I try to use the transfer paper as much as I can, but if it's a small area, then a lot of times I'll just go to the wet newspaper.
I've done a couple of jobs doing a ton of wine bottles, and I've found whether you use transfer paper or not, it's kind of hard to tell the difference, to be honest with you. It depends how deep you're etching. I have 140 watts, so maybe it's different for me than somebody with a 60 watt machine when it comes to the results. But I've done jobs where I do deep etching into wine bottles, and I'm going 5 or 6 passes. And you could feel going into that. There's no way you're going to put transfer paper over again.
No, and that's most of the time people are just doing a single pass, right?
Oh, okay,
and you're looking for that frosted edge. Like if you want to get the photographs on glass, you have to use the wet newspaper or the transfer paper. It's the only way to do it to get consistent results. So
yeah, and actually that goes to the next question from Alex. Can you please cover what photo engraving software works best with Trotec and Job Control and can adjust for different materials? Mike, I know you've done tons of these photo engraving. What would you recommend? Well,
I've used Photograve, I've used Engraving Lab, Photograve, the one by the Engraving Lab. I've used the One Touch too. My problem, I normally just use Corel Draw. I mean, I just use the tools in Corel Draw to to get a good looking photograph. Photograve was always a good program years ago because, you know, its claim to fame was it had a good algorithm for generating the look, but its main selling point was the fact that you could see what the image looked like on the material. Well, that's really hard on wood because every piece of wood looks different. I don't typically find the things I do in Corel Draw are any worse than what I'm going to get in Photograve or Engrave Lab or One Touch. Now, One Touch uses a little bit of a different algorithm. They use a screening algorithm like a screen, as opposed to a sort of a Floyd Stuckey or whatever. So again, but I like to do stuff in Corel. I like to be able to see it before I send it to the laser machine, as opposed to picking Floyd, the 3 settings in the print driver. So again, and a lot of this is just really a matter of trial and error and doing it a lot, making sure you're not using a lot of power. Again, photos tend to get destroyed very quickly if you use too much power. And I could go on, I guess, on and on about photograving, but typically I like to do it just in Corel Draw. That's kind of the short answer for something that, you know, probably needs a couple of hours to talk properly about.
You've done a ton of videos, and they're all fantastic for that too, Mike. Like I use these things myself as a reference.
Yeah, John, I was going to ask what kind of, like, how many jobs do you usually do for photo engraving? What do you use?
Not many, because I focused on the industrial market. I learned really fast in my business that dealing with just individuals dropping in just doesn't make you a lot of money, and it's just more headaches than it's worth, to be honest with you. My shop has no signage, and all the windows are covered. Nobody knows I'm here.
I'll make one point here too. And when I wrote an article for the Engravers Journal years ago, and I had just done a photo for somebody in the U.S. They were having problems. They'd sent a photo up to me, and it was a picture of it chokes me up when I have to say it, but it was a picture of a young guy, a student, was probably about 18 years old, and he died in a car accident, and they wanted to put a memorial for him. And you know, so the person who was doing it wanted to make sure they did a good job, you know, because it was an important thing for the community. And you know, I started thinking about that. I started thinking, you know, when we do a photograph for somebody, you know, we're typically memorializing somebody's picture on that plaque or whatever. So, and it's important to people. And the most important thing is to make sure you do a good job, and therefore, to do a good job for anybody in this, like make sure you get the proper money for it, and make sure that you're not doing something and going, oh, why did I, you know, this. But you know, I'm sitting here looking at this picture of this young man, and I'm thinking, this guy was snuffed out. This person was snuffed out, you know, before they lived their life, and the parents. The school, this was going up in a school, I believe. So it was really, really important that the job was done proper. So make sure you charge properly, so you'll take the time to do something that, you know, lives on forever, because that's why people were doing it, right?
But you also have to be passionate about what you're doing. If you start up a laser business and you have no passion in laser business, you shouldn't be in the laser business. You know, I've had jobs where honestly I didn't make any money. I just spent so much time on the design aspect of it just because it was fun. You know, you got to understand that you're in a business because you love doing it, not because it's a job.
Yeah, because sometimes there's only so much you can do with a picture. So it's garbage in, garbage out. So make sure you select don't take those pictures that people pull up from their wallets and, hey, make a good job out of this thing. So make sure you work with the customers selecting the right picture as well. So I think that's pretty important.
And just remember that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I mean, we tend to be our worst critics for doing this stuff. And, you know, don't assume that what the photograph looks like, you know, on the screen is what it should look like on the finished product. a lot of people, you know, and I've been in a lot of trophy dealers, engraving shops, and they've done stuff, and people have walked in to get the order, and they look at it and they just freak out the fact that you were even able to put the photo on that product. So don't be too harsh at yourself if you don't think you're going to get you know, the photo on the product that looks like what was on the actual original itself.
Agreed.
Yeah, I'm just showing you guys, if you type in Trotec engraving webinar, Mike did a very long webinar on photo engraving, and then you can actually find his slideshows in the description of the video for this webinar as well.
Yeah, Mike's a national treasure. He's got.
That's right.
Well, and I can tell you right now that you know, that converting the photo in Corel Draw is like 1/10 of what happens in a photograph. You know, the main thing you have to do with a photograph to nix all the issues you may have, as Mel said, is get something that looks good from the customer. So the picture of the guy down, the two guys down in the church basement, you know, and it's dark and you can't see anything or anything. It doesn't matter what you do, you're probably not going to get a good look at, not going to get a good finished product. And don't make the fatal mistake of everybody and accept the job without looking at the photo first, and then opening that photo on Sunday night to run the job, and the guy's coming on Monday morning to pick it up, right? Because that's when I normally get the email from the customer saying, help me, I'm at my wit's end, I can't get this done, because they haven't done the appropriate process to make sure that the photo that they've gotten from the customer is going to live up to what they expect to look on the finished product.
And don't be scared of redoing a job too. I've done that quite a few times, even with stainless steel. I'll do a job and then I'll go, oh, I should have fixed this. Well, just do the job again.
Yeah,
you know,
and charge enough that you can do the job again.
Yeah. If you give yourself margin just to be able to do it once, you screw yourself, because something will happen. You have a part failure or whatever happens midway through the job, and then you got to redo it. And then there's no way you'll get the same spot. So give yourself enough margin so that if you screw it up, you still have margin to redo the whole job.
Your disaster factor, right?
Yes, disaster factor.
Yeah,
like
that's one of the profit centers, right? So every stage, your computing time, your editing, then your laser etching. So every stage is a profit center, and we do have formulas that we suggested formula that we can share to customers as well. Yeah.
Perfect. We got a question from India. Best economical CO2 laser machine, hobby, bed size 2 by 2 feet, cutter, and engraving facility, mainly 2 to 5 millimeter acrylic. Economical, I mean, would we talk about R500 in this case?
Yeah.
R500.
What can you guys tell us about the R500?
Mike probably has the most.
Well, Stephen actually has the most. Let's
Stephen. Okay,
Yeah,
Stephen.
it's a sales question, but technically it's a machine. It's got a glass tube. It's got way more space than 2 feet by 2 feet. So it's a nice big bed size. Very easy software to work with. So it's a nice entry-level machine. In that size, we do have the Speedy 100 or the smaller ray jets, but I think for that price point and doing 5 millimeter acrylic cutting, the ray jet's definitely a good machine to start out with. It has a glass tube. It doesn't have the sealed, the metal or ceramic tubes that are on the higher end machines. But it's a very, very well placed size machine, and a good machine from a reliability and ease of use standpoint.
Perfect. Yeah, Rama was also.
Mike, how many rupees does the R500 cost?
Yeah, actually, Rama was asking the price. So we can't give a price online, unfortunately. There are different prices in different countries, of course. So we do have a Trotec representative in India. So if you go to the website, troteclaser.com, go to the contact page, and you'll find a local. I think they're in Delhi. You can talk to them and get pricing for the R500. Perfect. Okay, let's go on. We have another 10 minutes to go, so we'll go through a couple more questions. This is also from the same person from Saudi Arabia. How can we do nesting the parts before cutting? I know Renee actually talked about this in a couple of the webinars that we did with the CNC machine. I know there's nesting software on CNC. First of all, can somebody explain what nesting is for the people who don't know what it is?
So nesting is where you have a lot of different parts. So let's say you're writing a whole bunch of letters, and this software will take these letters and it will interlock them so that you're not wasting a lot of material, and you're keeping your letters tight together, and it takes them out from a long line of letters into like a jigsaw puzzle almost of letters. And this cuts down on the amount of material you're going to waste, and it sometimes makes things faster. But those nesting softwares are generally really expensive. You're usually, I couldn't even suggest a piece of nesting software right now. I don't know if anybody else can, but if you're doing nesting all the time, then go looking for something that will do nesting for you. If you're not doing it very often, gosh, I mean, I just nest myself. If the material is worth nesting, then I'll do it myself. But in most cases, your time is worth a lot more than your material when we're laser cutting anyway. Out of the stuff that 90% of our customers are using, and so nesting software isn't that useful. Of course, if you're cutting 1-inch acrylic, you're definitely going to want to nest, because you don't want to waste that stuff. It's really, really expensive.
Yeah.
Another thing about nesting is when I ran CNC King, I did all my manual nesting. It's not really that hard. You just have to learn how to do it properly. It's like, I guess, like drawing. You just teach yourself how to do it. Nesting, even a couple hundred parts, is not that difficult to do.
Yeah, exactly.
I was just showing. So we actually did a webinar with Renee. He's our sales rep out of Calgary, and he knows CNCs like inside and out. And he suggested Aspire software. It's not a very expensive software considering. And then, sorry, that's
hey,
that's my face. So he was actually showing Aspire is more for the CNC, but you can use it for 3D engraving or the laser machine, and there's also a nesting function in that software. So if you type in Trotec Aspire on YouTube, you can actually go look at that video that we made and check out that software for nesting.
Bev?
Yeah.
You can also get an Engrave Lab, and we do sell that software. The
Engrave Lab? Okay.
Engrave Lab, yeah. So Engrave Lab does nesting, Mike?
Yep.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, you got to get the full version though.
Yeah, you get the full version, but yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of it used to be 10,000. Average price of those nesting software like ArtCam Pro, like now Rhino's got a 3D version as well. So it's gone down a lot. It used to be like between 7,000 to 10,000. Now you can get a $2,000 software that has a full nesting capabilities. Yeah.
Cool.
There's a couple of questions here. Okay, we have one from Jay. What speed do most often using for engraving? I tend to use 500 millimeters per second to adjust power accordingly. What is your preference? I'm not sure. We're in mil. We're obviously in inches per second. What do we use? I mean, Mike or James?
Stephen can.
Yeah, again, the speed of the laser is going to depend on the capabilities of the laser. So are we speaking about that the Trotec? Or what machine are we referring to in terms of that? Because we got machines that can engrave twice that speed, 3 times that speed very well. So it's really onto the capabilities of not only the brand of laser that you have, but also which Trotec you have if you have a Trotec. So it's a bit of a difficult question to answer.
And speed isn't always the main component when you're engraving, right? I mean, if you're looking for quality, you actually want to slow it down.
Exactly.
Maybe for photo engraving, even when we talk
about. If it's
a
production sensitive item, then great. You're going to need to work on speed as a priority. But if it's for a quality output, then you're going to really bring the speed down and focus on power management.
Yeah, and we just had a couple of people commenting on the nesting software. So eCut, apparently a plug-in for Corel Draw. Mike, do you know about eCut?
Yeah, I've used it. It's a pretty good program. It actually, cool. If you go to Monster something or other, I can't remember, but it's a guy's out of Winnipeg. He has a repository for a lot of the plugins for for, if you type Monster and Corel Draw, you'll probably come up. But he sells a lot of plugins for Corel Draw, so eCut, and there's some other programs in there that are very good add-ons for Corel, for the engraving vinyl industries. Like he's the serial input, text input, and Scott Dukakis has some software out of Florida that is a good plugin also for Corel Draw. So, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, from Julian, thanks so much. Do we know if we have an office in Texas?
Yeah, we do.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
So reach out to them. We in Canada offer internships for students and for college university students. So obviously after the coronavirus is hopefully over, knock on wood, as soon as possible, reach out to the guys in Texas and see if they could take internships. But thanks so much for that.
Come on up to Canada. We'll put you to work.
So Michael's asking, what is the best material for heat transfer, t-shirts, bags? I guess it depends on the material. John, have you ever done any kind of heat transfer tape? I know you're mostly industrial, but
No, I've never done any of that.
okay. I know there's. I'm going to bring up the settings now for LaserFlex, but can you guys comment on this and your experience?
Yeah, what we have works really well. There are some others. You got to be a little bit careful. Some of the stuff you see, you need. Is it 9.3, Steve?
Mm-hmm.
For the wavelength.
Yeah.
So some of this stuff only works with like a different wavelength laser. So CO2 or fiber don't work. So you've got to be careful with some of the. I know Stahl sells some stuff like some heat transfer stuff. Our stuff works really well. I mean, I've used it. Lev's used it a bunch of times. It works great. You can see Tyler with it on his shirt there, so it works really good. But you got to be careful with some of the stuff you get outside because some of it won't work. So again, I always tell people use our stuff first. Make sure you've got your settings proper, and then if you want to experiment outside the box, then go for it. So.
Yeah, it's really thin. So I mean, you're not obviously using a lot of power, and you can use a lot of speed with this.
Just make sure it's not PVC based. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Awesome. Okay, I think we have a time for another question. I don't see anything from the chat yet.
That's a good one from Jay.
Yeah.
Sorry, which?
Changing the nozzle.
Oh, okay. Do you change the air nozzle depending on the lenses you use to get a better airflow? Saw a video once with a guy that 3D printed different nozzles. Is it worth it?
3D printed nozzles. I mean, that's pretty cool. I never thought of that. Yeah, I kind of like that. All you 3D printer guys, let's get innovative here. We do change nozzles. Maybe not for different lenses so much. I guess yes, there are some lenses that you need the wide-throated nozzle. I think Stephen could probably talk to that. But there's for different processes. Like when you're cutting acrylic, cast acrylic, and you want that nice glassy edge, you do not want to use that tiny thin-throated nozzle that Lev has on the screen here. That thing there's going to push too much air at the cut, and you're going to get a frosted edge. So with acrylic, you want to use this nose cone here, this nice wide-throated nose cone. And then if you have the ability, turn your air down a little bit, just so you're blowing the air gently at the cut, just to get the flammable smoke away. And
what is this used for? I mean, I never actually used this nozzle.
That's for 2.5.
Right. Generally, if you have a big lens, like a 4-inch, because you're so far away, your focal distance is so long. So
that nozzle is directing the air when you've got, like Mel saying, when your focal distance quite far away from the material. That's going to direct the air. Otherwise, you're going to, by the time the air gets to the material, it's too vague. So if you're using a long focal length, that's what that's for, to actually direct the air to the material. So with that type of lens, you're sitting away from the material.
Now, careful with this lens and a 4-inch.
You'll hit the side. You can't use the air assist with a 4.
Yeah, you'll I know some customers who use that, and what they do is they just ream the hole out, just to widen the hole so that the 4-inch beam can actually make it through that long tube.
And can you guys comment on these? What are these for?
Well,
High pressure.
high pressure, like nitrogen and things like that. I have one guy using nitrogen with those, and it works really well. So
You're not wasting as much of the nitrogen too. The flow is more concentrated. You can turn the valve down a little bit.
Yeah, he's cutting polycarbonate, so he's just getting a better edge with those. So
You actually get a clean edge when you're using nitrogen and polycarbonate? Like, is the edge nicer than? Oh, I had no idea. Okay.
Yeah.
Is it still black, or has it become like a clear flame?
he just says that he's not cutting. It's not thick. It's for control panels, right? So
okay, yeah.
Yeah. So I
But
mean,
is
but
the
he
edge
just
black,
finds
or is the edge like a
the edge is more clean, more clear.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it just cuts
Awesome.
the flaming down. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Polycarbonate likes to have a lot of heat with it.
Yeah.
It keeps the heat.
Great. I think so. We just up to the. Sorry, John. Did you want to add something else?
No, I'm good.
You're good. Yeah, I just wanted to say we're just over the hour mark, so I think we'll end it there. Again, if you guys have any questions for us to kind of discuss, go to bit.ly/ask Trotec. I think Mike is gone, unfortunately. His internet, he just walked by my office.
He turned into a pumpkin.
So, and I want to, again, make a very special thanks to John Canton. You guys can see his website there. If you want to reach out to him, ask him for jobs or advice, I'm sure he'll be happy to talk to you about Trotec. And thank you, everyone, for the panel. And I guess we'll see you guys next week.
All right, cool.
Thanks,
Thanks a
John.
lot.
Great.
Thanks, John. Thanks again.
All right. See you so long, world.
Thanks, guys. Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.